And while we do this, we're going to talk about my Discord server and my plot world, which today I closed the doors of. The Discord server is still going to be there for patrons and Twitch supporters, people who subscribe to me on Twitch, etc. That part of the community is going to stay intact. People have, given me their money in a sense in exchange for that, as well as streaming or just supporting me on Patreon. So I do want to keep a smaller community there of people who have, committed to me in that sense. But I have therefore closed the rest of the server. So what happened today was we shut down all the public channels, we opened up some explanatory channels, and we closed down the plot world. Now, for all the plot world people listening, firstly, I apologize for the sudden nature of how things have happened, and obviously it's sad that we're shutting down the plot world server. It's sad to see it go, but it's kind of time for me to move on. It's time for a bit of a new chapter, so to speak. You will be able to get any of your builds you've done on there. If you did it on someone else's plot, if you did it on your own, you will have access to these things later on. The plot world will return in a build only kind of mode. Sorry, not a build only, you know what I mean, a read only mode. You'll be able to fly around, look at stuff, and then you'll be able to download the plot as you see it. So if you worked on something, if it was someone else's build, we want to make everything on there accessible to everyone so they can get a schematic, download it, and be able to take their projects on to the next chapter. Next chapter, next thing that they're doing. So the other thing I want to say is the plot world absolutely has been an incredible part of this YouTube journey. It really has. The opening up the Discord and making it public was a lot of fun in the beginning, but it's a way for me to continue doing this public community, but it ended up becoming a bit too much. So this announcement was obviously sudden, and if you go over to the Discord and you look for those channels, there is explanation from me and instructions on what to do for the plot world. Now the plot world is currently offline, and we got all the things in place to allow you to download these schematics, and we're going to bring it back online in 1.13.2 in maybe a handful of days to a week. And if you did or didn't know, we were actually in the process of updating to 1.13.2. It had taken us a long time to work on that, and I just had to say to the staff, look, I've come to this realization that I need to close this thing down and move on, and I know you've put a lot of hard work into getting this thing ready for an update, but we just have to, I need to do this for myself and kind of end it here. So as it says on the Discord server, it was a very self-centered decision. I had to do something knowing that really this decision was entirely about me and what I wanted. So to give you a little bit of backstory, the community first started in 2013 with the XPD, which was Xisuma's plot world domain, and it was quite honestly one of the most amazing experiences that I am really, really fond of to this day. Starting up a community with people who watched my channel. It might be all a bit too common today to go to a channel and find out they've got an extended community, a Discord, a server. Back then it was quite novel for me. Yeah, it was quite novel, and I absolutely loved it. It was at a time when I spent a lot of my time tinkering around in test worlds doing redstone creations, and then I got to meet lots of really cool and wonderful people who were watching my videos and playing Minecraft. Lots of collaboration going on. It was really quite something, and I used to be on there every day in between making Hermitcraft episodes, and it was a really great experience. And then sometime after that, we tried to get even more ambitious. We teamed up with DocM. We tried to do the Respawn network, and unfortunately trying to kick things up to that level was very difficult, and it didn't last very long, as I'm sure some of you who might remember those days know. But both me and Doc, still friends today, even after trying such a ambitious project and having it, collapse on us. It was very, very difficult time, difficult to do that kind of thing, but it too was an incredible experience. We made PvP games and brought together an even bigger community. 17 is Lucky says the Respawn network was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work as well behind the scenes from a lot of people, and it kind of fell apart. So in the ashes of that, we kind of rebranded the community. I think it was then just called Asuma's Plot World. You know, the community has actually had a few different names over the years, and with each iteration after, I think, the Respawn network, my participation started to diminish. You know, in life you're not going to be doing the same thing forever. I started to pick up different hobbies and interests and family commitments and whatnot, and so my time got pulled away from that thing where this community started, and that was just, you know, being on this plot world every day, playing with the peeps around me, having a great time. But I always wanted to uphold it and keep it going. I always wanted to keep this community that we had created, keep giving it a home and keep the ball rolling, so to speak, even if less people were interested and it was a smaller thing than it once was. Rapan says, I still don't understand why. What was the problem with letting the plot world run besides money? The only reason for closure would be spare him a couple of bucks. How it looks and sounds like. Rapand, I'll get to that in just a moment. Money was not really a motivation at all. So let me continue with the story. You know, with each iteration, I was going in a different direction, but I wanted to continue to uphold the community. And then Discord was becoming a big thing. It was a place to have your community. We decided to create an open Discord server. I was always looking to get involved with the community and, you know, do those things, right? Keep evolving it, taking it in a new direction. But at one point, I kind of realized that where my time had been taken away from this, I was still kind of committed to doing community stuff, but I never really participated in it. And so I made some attempts to get more involved by creating channels that were related to topics I was interested in, like myth busting and snapshots. But, you know, it was kind of something I would dabble in for a little while and then forget about as I, you know, had other commitments and things. And I actively try not to get distracted by social media and end up reading stuff, and my commitment to the community had me doing that. And anyway, it kind of led up to this point where I still had this role of getting people together, talking, organizing, managing, and it just kind of hit me in December, which was very busy for me because I'd spent a lot of time working on videos. I had a lot of other things going on in that month, and I was just kind of exhausted, and it just kind of caught up with me, and I realized that you know, I kind of needed to move on from this. Like, it was taking up my time, and I was no longer really a part of the community, and I wasn't getting a lot of joy from it either. It's kind of like a bit of a been there, done that thing, right? Like, I'd really enjoyed my time with the community back in the past, and then slowly over time, you know, I'm less and less involved, and it just didn't really make sense for me to be a part of it anymore, which was sad. And it's sad to say that because I had so many great experiences on the plot world, but that's essentially what it boiled down to. I hit this tipping point, and I realized I kind of need to stop doing this because I'm spending so much time, and it's not even like a crazy amount of time, but the time that I'm spending has become just more of like burdensome and stressful, and I need to move on. I think I need to just say I'm no longer going to be committed to doing this public side of my channel, and I need to basically pull the plug on it. And because I had this month off and then I was going to get back into things very soon, I kind of had to rush things along a little bit. I had to rush my staff. We had meetings, we tried to make as many considerations as we could, given that we were doing something quite drastic, pulling the plug on our community. I knew that was going to hurt people's feelings. There were people here who formed friendships and had like a great time, a great history in this community, and I was pulling it for my own needs essentially, and that's just kind of what I had to do. I had to do it for myself. And if you go and read the reasoning behind, that's a very good find by the way, behind why I did what I did, I basically put it out as clear as I could. I know it was a selfish decision, it was just what I had to do. So today we pulled the plug on the plot worlds and on the public Discord server. Rapan says, sell off the plot world so the community can live on. There are 60 plus members in a new plot world Discord that would love to continue it. Well, that is something that can be discussed. A lot of people have put in hard work and effort to that plot world, and just saying yes to handing it over to someone else is probably not the smartest of decisions, just because, you know, everyone who's been involved in it has feelings and thoughts on it, and they need to be considered, and they need to be sort of thought through and figured out what's the best way to move forward. It sounds like a good idea when you say it out loud to pass it on. There may be some reasons people can bring up not to do that, but we are providing everyone with downloads of their schematics. So if there was a new community that wanted to emerge out of my old one, you'd have my support in doing that. I couldn't vouch for who's running it if I didn't know them or anything like that, but I could certainly say that I agree with the spirit of that idea to continue it on. Yeah, so let's turn it over to all of you with... Actually, no, one more little point I just wanted to say. Another reason the way we did things we did, which was rather quite clinical and sharp, you know, just today, all of a sudden closing it down at a certain time in the day, that was mainly because I was kind of operating from a bit of a fearful mindset to do with backlash, and I knew people would be emotional, they would get upset, and they have every right to feel upset, not trying to take that away from them or anything. I didn't want to announce anything in advance and leave like a big sense of drama or having discussions and arguments inside the community as we knew it was coming to an end. I really didn't want to foster an environment like that, so that's why it happened very suddenly. And you know, I've seen some people have been rather emotional and upset, and I've also seen that some people have been really mature about it and sent me kind of nice messages. I kind of expected every range of response, but I think I was operating from the mindset there would be more upset and angry people than there would be supportive and positive. And that, you know, people have every right to be angry and upset. It's an emotional response, I get it, and that is the reasoning behind why I decided to do it so suddenly. So I think those are all the things that I wanted to touch base with. I'm going to turn it over to chat for a moment and see what people in chat have to say. It sounds to me like friends aren't gone. Such a large network of people, there's already 60 in a Discord, the bonds stay strong, just need a place to play. Yeah, there you go. And, you know, the Discord is going to remain online for a while. There will be access that you have to everyone else in the server. If you want to message someone you know and say, hey, you know, we were friends here, hanging out in chat, do you want to keep in touch? You're welcome to do that. In fact, I highlighted that in my announcement so that, you know, people will be aware that yes, we're closing the doors, but you should still be able to keep in touch with people. Slil J Mart says it's not about plots and builds, it's about community and friends. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I hope that by leaving the server open with the list for people to access will help you guys, you know, move on to a new community. Thick Mustard says, like ripping a band-aid off, hurts initially but over quickly. Yeah, there's probably some truth to that as well. Like, it'll feel raw and stuff, but I'm sure with time people will realise, hey, you know, it's happened and it's time to move on. Buzzer Bearers says, just curious, was an attempt made to transition to you essentially no longer being involved with that Discord/server? No, I didn't want to hand it over somewhere else. I wouldn't be comfortable with that. If it's got my name slapped all over it and I've built it, like, it's my responsibility, and I wouldn't feel comfortable just giving a giant community of people over to someone else. That just instinctively doesn't feel quite right to me. Tobert's Game says, how hard is it to make and maintain a plot world? Well, for our staff it's been a lot of work, and as someone who's had an insight into how teams of programmers and whatnot work together, you know, this was not a pro operation. This was a casual thing, people putting in their own time and effort, and it can be quite difficult to organize teams of people. Some teams work more efficiently than others, and you know, the team that we have are great people, and it was about, you know, us being a group of friends doing this together more so than trying to assemble the world's most efficient team, right? So it just went at the pace that it went at, and I supported them doing what they're doing because I knew they put their time and effort into it. And there were lots of like technical issues and weird things that crop up that when you think it's just like, oh, you know, put up a server and put the plot world plugin on, all these other complications arrive. There's additional demands and features that you might not be aware of that require people's time and effort to fix and upgrade, and it was a long process, and they've been working on it for like over a year, and then I just kind of had to pull the plug on it, you know. So it's not really about that. Calamo says, well, it didn't work the first time, did it? The 1.13 announcement was as rushed as this will probably have the same effect. Maybe there could be the slightest communication between us. Alas, every step you have taken around these important changes are made as a plain coward. Well, you're being blunt and candid there, and you know, I appreciate that. I don't see what I did as cowardly. I just see it as me owning up to the reality that this community just doesn't have my commitment, and I need to take my time away from it and put it into other things at this point in time. It was definitely rushed. It was definitely a hasty decision, but it was just, again, because of these mounting commitments I have with other things going on in life. It was kind of like, I looked at the situation, it had caught up with me a lot. It was like I had a realization moment where I was like, I'm not really enjoying this anymore, and I kind of need to scale it back a lot. And so that realization made me look at the situation and go, you know, I need to do this soon, because I'm not going to have time to deal with these things before long. And yeah, if I'd have realized it sooner and had more time to plan and prepare, perhaps it could have been a lot better, right? But it wasn't. I didn't have that time to prepare and plan, and so it is what it is. And if people are upset, you know, I totally get it. I get it. Kagu Himi says, there are times when you need to make a decision for yourself. There will be many who agree and disagree with you. You're running a server. It's not easy, together with you being a streamer and content creator. Still J Mart says, are you and the admins planning on releasing the source code of old abandoned projects to the public, such as bridge walls and point runners and custom parts that are added for the plot world, for example? Could be very useful for people that are trying to continue them. Yeah, it could be. I don't know what will happen with that, but that's a fine suggestion, something that we will, I'm sure, discuss at a meeting if we want to make old things open source. I know Sherpa wanted to make some of the things he was working on open source, and I think I didn't quite understand the benefits of things being open source. I kind of looked at what we have built as our intellectual property more than open source being beneficial for Sherpa and for other people. Yeah, so the possibility of something becoming open source is there. Mahelvin says, this seems to be a recruiting theme among content creators. For example, the YouTube channel Counter Arguments just released a video yesterday with a similar message. People get burnt out on projects. You can't be expected to devote a lot of time to something you're no longer passionate about. By and large, online communities understand this and are supportive. The good ones anyway. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people here who are clearly supportive. And if you're not, I'm going to guess it's probably because, you know, it's quite an emotional thing if you're attached to the community in any way, to then have it ripped out from underneath you. But yeah, like it's kind of like a burnout thing for me. But the thing with burnout is it's an interesting one, burnout, because you can get burned out on something that you still enjoy doing. And for me, with the plot world, I don't really enjoy doing that process anymore of going on and tinkering with redstone, and I'm very nostalgic though for all the people who did that with me at the time. Like what we created, we had this wonderful community of loads of people playing together at the same time, tinkering. Used to fly around and just explore, teleport to people, see what they were up to. It was really inspiring, but things change and move on, and it was just no longer what I was interested in. I wouldn't really call it burnout. Not quite the same effect, but an interesting comparison nonetheless. We've got a noise in the ear. It's Graceful here with a donation saying, here's to the end of an era. I've been moderating on the plot world since 2016 and I've loved every aspect of it. If anyone here wants to reach out and connect with the group, they can DM me on Discord. So proud of all my friends. Well, Grace, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that gesture. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to Grace, Grace is obviously a mod on the plot world, as she's just stated, and it's clear people want to continue on together as a community, and you'll have my support. I can't guarantee that everything requested can be delivered, i.e. giving the plot world. There might be a complication with that. For example, Pretty sure the plot world is like at least 40 gigabytes, which, you know, if we provided it as a world download, most people won't be able to open it as a world in a Minecraft client. I could be wrong about that. I'm assuming that's what it's like. But yeah, like, you know, we will consider everything, discuss it, and we will figure out pros and cons and reasons why we should or should not do this thing or that thing. That's how we operate, right? Try and think it through as much as you can before just rushing into a decision. So although these things sound good, we would discuss them through, you know. Cuplet says, let me give my opinion. What you did was the best option out there. When I first became more active and prominent in the supporter and patron community, I absolutely loved it. I met like-minded people and it was a tight-knit community. I know I would be upset on the whole supporter community was discontinued, but I'd move on. 2 years ago, with the opening of the community, I felt that it was less safe to so controversial opinion. Closing of the community was good. Yeah, like when you join something and it's new and fresh, it's really fun, and sometimes it's difficult for things like that to be sustained. In a way, it's kind of crazy that Hermitcraft, for example, is still fun after all these years. There might be a point in the future where something similar happens with that and I want to move on and do something different. You never know. It's always sad when it happens, but it's just kind of what I got to. Right, I want to hop over to my my staff now. They've shot me some messages. I asked them to. Okay, so Pepin asked, I understand the decision, but it happened without warning. So why such a sudden change without time between announcement and closing? So I've already kind of answered that, but I'll reiterate it again. It's a feeling, right? You're committed to something, you're doing it over and over again, and then at one point you kind of realize that the direction isn't going to change. That's kind of how it happened. I realized one day that this isn't going to start going in the other direction. It's not going to get better. It's going to continue to just be, you know, this commitment that I'm struggling to fit in. And so with that, I then had to look at how much time I had to make it happen, and it wasn't a lot, because January I'm working on my house, but over that time I can kind of figure things out, right? Have some meetings, discuss things, and then February, before long, I'm back into the grind again. So it was kind of like that. And then I said the reason for having a kind of light switch, what do you call it, light switch? The flick of the light switch decision that we just turned everything off today was, again, a bit motivated by fear of like a backlash. And if anything, it might have created its own backlash. But I think if we had told people that everything was going to close, then we would have just created an environment where that would be the discussion, and there probably wouldn't have been a lot of fun to be had anymore. People would just, you know, be upset and angry and constantly talking about it, was kind of what I saw. So that's the reason why I did that. I don't know if it were wrong or right. A lot of things like this you have to learn from as well. You know, maybe I'll find myself in a similar situation one day, and I might go, hey, I did this with the plot world, and why don't I try and do this thing a different way? That might be something that happens in the future. I don't know. No offense, but you were not online, a part of the plot world the last 2 years. What difference does it make for you? I still don't get it, says Rapand. Well, because it's in my name. It's my responsibility to keep it running, and I'm a part of making decisions and you know, being involved in organising what's happening. I think maybe the bigger part to understand is that it's in my name, right? If you put something in your name, you're going to want to be involved in how it's run, even if you're not really a part of it, because it's attached to you. If I didn't have any say in what the plot world was going on over there, and I just let it do its thing, and, you know, maybe some sort of havoc or drama or something happens over there, and it's kind of all in your name. So, you know, I put my name on this thing, I made a commitment to keep it running, and that had to come to an end for me. It's fine, X, everything that comes to an end at some point, says Surprise T. That is very true, you know, all good things come to an end, right? And it may not have been done the best way, but I've tried to be candid and explain the situation and my reasoning and thought process behind why I did it the way I did. And it is what it is. You know, maybe if I had loads of free time and whatnot, I might have planned some big closing party event and had fun with it, but I didn't have time for that either at all. It's been a mad scramble working on my house, and it's still got loads of work to be done. Whew. When will you post next Hermit Crafts, as Melon Boy? After I finish the last set of things to do on my house, then that's when I'm going to be like getting back into recording Hermitcraft. I'm hoping a week to 2 weeks. Shouldn't be more than that. Sergeant Ernie, I appreciate your support. I think that's the right thing to do sometimes, is just to be candid and open. I don't think there's anything to... Yeah, there's nothing nefarious going on, right? I'm just a person making a decision, and I'm aware that my decision will suck for some people and maybe not so much for others. So, in my mind, just best to give you the info, and then you know, right? Just say psych and everything will calm down. Psych! It's not really closing. No, I wouldn't do that. That'd be too trolly.